Well, welcome to FatherJohnBlog.org. It's been a while since I've been able to blog or kind of give any commentary, partly because as we drew closer to the elections, previous comments from friends were that my blog might have appeared on the partisan side. I don't think so. And today it is Thursday. And it's a great day, and it's been a couple days since this has happened. My mother said I cannot call my family in Indiana until a few days have passed, because it would appear as if I'm gloating. Cleaning up. The transition team is going to be doing some cleaning up around the White House. Looks like a few people are going to go, get rid of some of the old mess that was left behind after 8 years of absolute and utter destruction. Deregulate the deregulations. That's what you do. All right, I'd like to do a faith reflection on David and Goliath. Your servant has killed both a lion and a bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine will be as one of them, because he insulted the armies of the living God. Why is he going to go up against this horrible, much better equipped, much more well-oiled machine, Goliath, a Philistine, the dominant culture, the dominant ruling class? How would he go against him? And why? Well, because this Goliath, the Philistine, has basically insulted the armies of the living God. And what's the armies of the living God is another way of understanding. It's not just the political armies or the military armies, but it's also the armies of my cat here. It's the armies of it's the people of God. It's the marginalized, the poor. And then we could see that even the weapons of the poor are simply no match for the well-financed armies. What does David have? David has nothing but 5 small stones from the wadi. This is verse 40. 5 small stones from the wadi, and put them in the pocket of his shepherd's bag. And again, he doesn't have a giant sheath. He doesn't have a spear. He doesn't have a scimitar. Doesn't have any of these kinds of more fancy Iron Age weapons. He simply has what a shepherd would use to scare away any kind of animal, like a wolf or a coyote coming after a particular sheep. And he uses the army of a poor person, the weapons of a poor person, to go against this giant Goliath. Verse 47: all this multitude too shall learn that it is not by the sword or spear that the Lord saves. So the multitude, of course, referring not just only to the multitude that's in the context of the text in terms of the other people of Israel, the other armies of Israel, as it were, the nomadic tribe of poor and far marginalized people, but rather the multitudes who are going to be reading and hearing this story for ages to come. It teaches us something about perhaps this faith, this election. I mean, who would have thought that a son of a migrant, raised by a single mother and a grandmother, oftentimes was on welfare, would arise to become the president of the United States? Now, I don't mean to draw any bizarre biblical parallels between the president of the United States and David. I'm just simply stating that, looking at the armies of God, the multitudes of God, and where this came from. I mean, how did Obama rise to power? As many different people knew that they were going to be out-financed by special interests. But through dogged dedication of the poor, the marginalized, the disenfranchised, many people who are on the margins of even religious communities, other than, of course, the African American traditional churches, but many in the Catholic community were often marginalized for their support of Obama, because his stands oftentimes collided with the stands of the interests of the conservative movement. Also, it's very interesting to see that it was the small stones, the stones gathered in the wadi, the $5, the $15, the $50 donations, that created the momentum for Obama to get. we see that the Republicans have really relied a lot on a resentment strategy. I'm looking at a Paul Krugman reflection from September 7th, 2008, and really saying that, and Krugman is talking about this kind of wedge issue attempt, and it was really interesting because it came obviously a couple months prior to the election. So many of the new voters, 70% of them, voted for the reform ticket or the Democratic ticket. We also know that many of the young people that are voting, people college age and maybe first-time voters, many of them are not attracted to this kind of resentment strategy, these kind of wedge issues. They tend to be doers and builders, not dreamers or ideologues. They want to solve income inequality, and they see that government will play a large role. And of course, this is for Now, what's the role then of the faith community in all of this? Well, the faith community will have a large role because we are, in fact, have been consistently speaking about the issues of values and principles, looking towards the common good. Now, we, as a faith community, particularly the Catholic faith community, have unfortunately been have given into some of these wedge issues, such as the Proposition 8 here in California, because that did play into a lot of the Republican strategy, the resentment strategy. This particular Republican resentment strategy, or the Republican fear strategy, works for 85% of the Republicans. It did not work as well for the Democrats, but it did try to throw a wedge into some of our communities, the African American community and to the Latino community, many which take their participation in institutional religion very seriously. But faith voters, not aligned in the same kind of moral majority of that propelled Ronald Reagan and his ilk into power in the 70s and 80s, 90s, and into this particular election cycle. But I think that we're seeing with Barack Obama perhaps the first indication that that particular strategy really is once and for all dead. Particularly my own faith community tradition is really to focus on the common good, to abandon wedge politics, to abandon wedge strategies, to abandon fear, and to look for strategies that might in fact bring people together, as we would see, as we would use religious language, the kingdom of God. Week's episode of FatherJohnBlog.org. I know that we will be more regular about getting these web episodes out to you now that the election campaign season is over, and now we're going to start that transition team. Lots of interesting things about transition will be coming up. Speaking about transition and transformation and the tone of the country, we'll be hitting future episodes. We'll be dealing with gay and lesbian issues, looking at issues of race and issues of community organizing. And we'll be bringing those things up in upcoming episodes. All right. Thank you very much.